Hello, Taylor Elwood here, and welcome to the latest episode of the Men's Mysteries. I know I keep changing the name of this podcast, but I think I've really settled in on the Men's Mysteries, and the reason why is because it just took me a little while to figure out what it is that I'm talking about. But it really is the Men's Mysteries. It is the mysteries of being a man, both the spiritual reality, but also the physical reality, the mental and emotional reality. So there you go. And today what I want to talk about is something that really interests me, which is what you allow, you are responsible for. And really, this actually isn't a mystery that is limited to being a man. It's really a mystery that's limited to being human, or maybe it goes beyond that, but definitely being a human being. And yet, nonetheless, it's a really important one, because in today's episode, what I'm really talking about is how to recognize your nice guy behavior and codependent behavior around what you are allowing in your life. So when I talk about what you allow, you are responsible for, what I'm really saying is the behaviors that you allow from a person or a situation or something else you're responsible for that. You're not responsible for the other person. So if the other person behaves a certain way, like if they yell and they get angry or they throw and break things or do other things like that, you're not responsible for the fact that they did those behaviors. You are responsible if you allow those behaviors. And what I mean by that is, if somebody goes and does that and I don't say anything, I don't speak up, I don't say this is unacceptable, and if you do it again, we're going to have to look at a change in relationship here, then, basically what you're doing is you're condoning it, and you're saying it's okay for you to treat me like shit. And speaking as a recovering nice guy and someone who has sometimes made that very choice, I can tell you that it is one of the most mentally and emotionally and sometimes physically damaging experiences that you can have, because you're essentially setting yourself up to be kicked and walked all over and treated like crap because you're allowing that. And that's going to sound harsh in a way, so I want to be very clear. I have compassion for someone who has that kind of experience. Because again, I've been that man. I have been that man where I have allowed someone to walk all over me and take advantage of me. I've had situations where I've let someone take advantage of me financially. I've allowed someone to take advantage of me materially. I've allowed someone to take advantage of me emotionally. And, a large part of that has been codependent, people-pleasing behavior. If I go along with what this person is doing, maybe at some point they'll approve of me. Maybe at some point they'll be nicer to me. Maybe at some point they'll actually like me. Maybe at some point they'll treat me a different way. You know what I've discovered? When I allow someone to treat me poorly, they will continue to treat me poorly, because what they're doing is they're showing me their truth. They are showing me who they are. And so it's the same thing that applies here for you. When I talk about the fact that you are responsible for what you allow, what I am really essentially talking about is that if you allow someone to treat you poorly, what you're responsible for is the fact that you are allowing it. That you are not saying anything, that you are not sticking up for yourself, and you are not setting clear boundaries. We don't want to do that. And a lot of times, what we have to really look at is what's at the core of allowing. Why am I allowing this? What is going on? Because if I'm allowing something to occur to me, what I'm doing is I'm essentially condoning it. I'm saying that this behavior is acceptable and this person can do whatever it is that they want to do. And I'm doing it because I hope that somehow or another this person is going to do X, Y, and Z. And this is what we call covert contracts as well. So, Robert Glover talks about it in No More Mr. Nice Guy. Trevor Boehm talks about it as well in some of his material. And it's basically where it's an unspoken agreement, and it's one where one party may not even know that there's a quote unquote agreement or contract in place, and the other person's like, well, I'm not saying anything because I'm afraid to say something. I might not feel safe. I might feel scared. It might be anything along those lines. And so what's happening is they're not saying anything, but they're hoping that something will change. Well, the problem here is that this creates a very unsafe situation for all parties involved. If I, for example, don't speak up and speak my truth about what it is that I want, I am setting up an unsafe situation because I'm not being honest with myself, and I'm not being honest with that other person. I'm creating a situation where I cannot fully trust this person, and I don't fully trust myself, or I would be speaking up. A large part of it might be like, hey, I'm afraid that if I share this truth with this person, they're going to leave me, or they're going to be angry at me, or they're going to do X, Y, and Z. And all of that could happen. But a lot of times what's happening is that our anxiety and our fear is playing a large role. And it's an activating role where it's kind of like, hey, here's all the worst outcomes. Don't do this because, and maybe you should do it, even though the worst outcome could happen. Don't get me wrong, I don't want any of you who are watching this video to do something where like you'll genuinely put yourself into a dangerous situation. But what I do want you to do is use some discerning judgment and ask yourself, what is it that I'm allowing by not speaking up? What is it that I'm hoping I'm going to get if I allow this person to treat me this way? And what is it that I'm actually getting? What is the actual result? And this is part of taking responsibility for ourselves. We have to be willing to take responsibility for the way that we show up. And so often what I see with men, and I've been that man, is we avoid our own responsibility. Now, I'm not talking about this from a place of rugged individualism, but what I am talking about is like, look, I am responsible for my life. I am responsible for my choices. I'm responsible for what I say or do or don't say or do. I'm not responsible for the other person. So I'm not responsible for how the other person acts and behaves. That responsibility is on that person. I am responsible for what I allow. And if I don't set good boundaries and say, hey, that's not acceptable, then that person is going to know that they can do whatever they want to do. Setting good boundaries means honoring yourself. Setting good boundaries also means actually honoring that person. One of the ways that I look at it is it's learning how to say yes to yourself and say no to other people, so that even if you do say yes to somebody, you're saying yes from a place of enlightened awareness and interest in like what how you genuinely feel about it. I found that a lot of times I have said yes to other people and no to myself. And one of the things that I'm continually working on in my life at this time is saying yes to me and no to other people. And one of the ways that I'm doing that is by looking at, what am I allowing? If I'm allowing someone to treat me a certain way, then I am basically setting myself up to be in a situation where they're able to walk all over me and treat me in that way. And I'm not going to, I'm basically going to get treated a way that I don't necessarily want to be treated. So as men, we have to really examine this. And really, I would say this is true for women as well. Like, this applies to the nice guy or good girl archetype, okay? So if you're a good girl and you're watching this and you're like, yeah, I'm finding myself agreeing with this. I see this in myself in this. There you go. Important point is that you recognize, like, you don't have to be that way in your life. One of the most important realizations that I've had is that if I'm allowing this, I'm condoning it. But if I choose not to allow it, then I am saying that I have a sense of worth and value, that I matter, and that my needs and wants matter. And that I have a right to stick up for myself and say what is or is not acceptable. A lot of times, what I'll find is that people that want something from you may think that they have their best interest in heart, your best interest at heart, but they don't. They have their own best interest at heart. This is going to sound a bit harsh, but I don't know a person alive who doesn't have an element of self-interest at work in why they do what they do or what it is that they want. For example, if someone says, hey, I want to do X, Y, and Z with you. Okay, great. Why do you want to do that? Now, it might be they just genuinely want to spend time with you. Fair enough. There's still that element of self-interest. They want to spend time with you. It might be because they want to spend time with you because you have a car and you can drive them somewhere. Well, that's, again, kind of another layer to that. And so it's important to say, what am I allowing? Why am I allowing this? What is it that I'm getting out of this? And know that you don't have to put yourself into that kind of a situation. You deserve, in fact, not to put yourself into that kind of situation. So let's take a deep breath here. And here's a journaling exercise for you that I'd like you to do over the course of the next month. In your journal, I want you to write down, what am I allowing someone else to do that I don't like? And write it out. And I'm not saying that you have to have a conversation with that person right now, okay? You don't. It's your choice as to what you want to do or not do, but write it out. Explore it. What am I allowing that I don't like? And why? Why am I allowing that? Like, what am I hoping to get out of that? Are you hoping to get sex? Are you hoping that somebody's going to be your friend? Are you hoping that somebody is going to give you a ride? I mean, whatever it is, whatever the reasons are, just like be honest with yourself about it and really explore that. And then ask yourself, am I getting the result that I want? For example, if you're hoping that someone's going to have sex with you and that if you allow them to treat you a certain way that they'll do that, and then they're not having sex with you, what does that tell you? It tells you you're not getting the result that you want. And not only that, but honestly, that you're compromising yourself in a really essential way just to get something where if you acted from a place of awareness and you were like, hey, I'm not going to allow this isn't acceptable, maybe you wouldn't get laid. But just as importantly, maybe you would actually like and value yourself and not be looking for validation through the act of sex. These are all things to think about. And it's something that I hope that all of you who are doing this, that you're watching this, that I hope you really will do that journaling exercise because it will make a difference. All right, thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.